And what is going on, everybody? A virtual We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. Haven't had one of these in a while, several months now, since the summer and since we weren't on campus. But obviously, it is a festive season right now. It is. We just had New Year's. We were recording on New Year's Day, so happy 2026, everyone! And it is a 2026 of joy and of intrigue and of growth for the We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast and for all of us individually as well. But we're looking at big things this year. We're continuing the momentum. If you haven't checked out the pod games, part one or game one, make sure to check that out on our channel here at We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. And it was a great fun to participate. And honestly, even greater fun watching back and seeing some of the little things that you may have missed when we were actually in the heat of the game. Just a lot of fun moments. We are family, and Thielet and Graves a good tandem. We are a good tandem, but apparently hockey is up next, and have a shift day. They've been talking a lot. Hey, this is our sport. You know, we're gonna dominate. They've been
a lot of
gabbing.
talk. Yep.
I
Nick
mean,
Tremere talked a lot before the football
we're
game
playing
too,
with-
so.
We're playing with house money. If we lose 10-0, I mean that's probably what should happen, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, if we're in that game in the
we're
third
playing as-
period, that's a lot of pressure on have a shift day there.
It is, and there might be some heated moments on their squad if we keep it close, and that might cause some distraction. So we're just going to try to stay
we had
optimistic
some heated
and do our
moments in
best.
football. We had some heated. Me
but-
and Nathan.
But luckily it was early.
arguments.
It was early in the game. We collected ourselves in the second half and ran away with it. So
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
that
well,
game
we
should
don't
have been
want
a
to.
complete
You spoiled
blowout.
it. No, but go watch it anyway. It's fun.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
But,
that's true. Sorry.
There's going to be some slamming into the boards. We're going to have some fun with us here, some hockey. But I think we collectively have just some gym class experience, at least for me, in hockey. Some gym class hockey in the street. The
I played
experience
deck
that I
hockey
have.
for a couple of years when I was 6 or 7 years old. But that's about it.
What a job there by you.
What was I
of-
get-
of
but
making that
but the
reference
point
there.
of the point of what we're doing. I don't. What'd you say? What'd you say, Nick?
Your age. When you said your age, it was good. We're starting off
You
2026.
could have just not. You could have
continuing.
just ignored it, but now you had to bring it up.
Well, you gotta mention
I
it 'cause
wasn't.
it was like
I
an
no, it
awkward
doesn't
area.
need to be mentioned. It
It
doesn't
was
need
like
to
awkward.
be
I'm just
mentioned.
like sitting there, and I didn't mention. I just like I didn't mention it. Like
Now
I
you
didn't
brought it
actually
up.
say it. I didn't actually like.
But it
say
wasn't a
it,
thing until
but-
you made it a thing.
Yeah, but
Okay,
you,
so
you
anyway-
said there was,
All right, but we could have moved past it. It would have never. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is the point of all of the pod games is to promote the podcast to Jagoffs, Austin Carnes and Nicholas Brown, and Lucas Coons. Go check out them.
no more
have a
Steel
shift
City
day.
commuters.
They're
all
that's
together,
Nicholas
tandem.
Brown. They're
That
all
was the
one
name.
now.
Nicholas Brown had a
and,
great
have a
New
shift
Year's.
day.
You're
Megan
following Nick
Lukic
Brown.
and company. She's got a whole gang of people running that. Penguins, all NHL. Thielet and Graves, of course, our buddies, diving into Pittsburgh sports, and they kind of just do whatever they feel like it, which I kind of like. And who am I forgetting? I think that's it,
I
right?
think we
Yeah.
covered
that's
everything. Yeah, Thielet
So that's the
Graves have
point
a
of it is
shift
to-
day. Two
Yeah.
Jagoffs.
And the point of that, so the point of what we're doing is to promote everybody at Point Park. So, a good start, I feel like. We got a decent amount of views, but keep sharing that video, and reposting and whatever. So,
Yeah, and
and Jake
support those
Bell,
podcasts.
excellent job on the editing.
Thank
Excellent.
you so
He
much.
took a lot of
I
work.
really appreciate
That took a lot of work.
Yeah.
It took a
And
lot
he
of work.
pulled it together.
And it was fun work though because Jake Bell,
was.
as he was saying, was having the time of his life editing, and I bet he was with all the funny
I did some
film
film
putting them all
study
together.
too. I did some film study. Had some sort of advanced stats that I wrote down because it was fun. But no, it was awesome. I mean, this was an easy edit because it was so much fun. It's a lot easier whenever you're playing in the game that you're editing. So
we have to mention too. I was looking at the scoreboard and the time because our referee Tyler Beck, he did a great job. I don't know necessarily if he was always very accurate with the time, and so Jake Bell, he had to manage that. We have to be honest there. He had to manage that because there was a lot of running clock on plays that shouldn't have been.
Yeah, like at the
clock.
end, I had to make up some time because I'm like, I'm going by the rules. I wasn't sure, but I mean, it's tough to do. So,
But thank you to Tyler Beck for being the referee, and I think he's gonna want to referee the hockey as well. He's a big hockey guy as well. So, but that's enough of that. Just check that out and support all those podcasts. Let's get right into it, fellas. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, last week was Christmas week and everything, and want to spend time with family and friends. So, no podcast last week, but a lot went on. Obviously, your Pittsburgh Steelers got a huge win in Detroit, a statement win that some in Steeler Nation, including maybe on this podcast, were thinking could lead to more in January. Now I was one that was like cautiously optimistic. That was at the time a big win. Nobody thought the Steelers could win that game, and they really dominated, especially offensively and defensively, stopping the run for most of that game. And for it to be that close, there's another thing about the coaching staff, maybe. But you're thinking, hey, this is a huge win. This is maybe that statement win for the Steelers against a team of playoff caliber, even though they're not going to make the playoffs with that Steeler win. And then you see what kind of the first sign. You see what the Lions did in Minnesota against Max Brosmer, one of the worst quarterbacks that I've ever laid eyes on. And you realize, I mean, the pass rush was
yeah.
The pass rush was for Minnesota was just every play was getting to Jagoffs. He's throwing picks left and right. A lot of them obviously were up because he was trying to make plays with that O-line just being terrible. And you're kind of like, oh, was that Detroit win as good as we thought it was initially? And then obviously the Cleveland Browns game. The Ravens the night before get a statement win to stay in it. But you're thinking, hey, now the Steelers have everything to play for here. We win this game. We lock up the division. The Ravens are eliminated. And the Ravens game the week following would be an opportunity to rest starters and get some help and some rest going into a playoff matchup with the Buffalo or Houston or Chargers or whoever. Instead, the Steelers absolutely lay an egg. And it just kind of started. The tone was set on that second drive for Cleveland when Shedeur Sanders throws that just some moon balls, just throw them straight in the air. And Kyle Duggar is he's in perfect position. And he's looking around, he's looking to the skies like he needs blessings from God.
He ran right past the guy. He ran right past the receiver. Then he turns around. Oh, shoot, he caught the ball. Oh, whoops. But, I mean, the game doesn't come down to that, though. Cleveland did nothing.
Yeah, I was just saying, but it was just like, it was the moment where you're like, oh, boy, this is a Steeler. This is going to be one of those Steeler games here. And it was. And I thought, going into halftime, the momentum the Steelers had, getting it to 10-6, I was like, second half, this team, usually there's a half of bad football offensively, but then the other half, they kind of show up and show something offensively. And it didn't happen whatsoever. It was two really bad halves of performance. The ironic thing is at the end of both halves, the Steelers had their best drive in the hurry up, which is usually what you see. Now, was Cleveland playing back a little bit? Were they playing prevent defense a little bit? But Aaron was decisive. They're throwing the ball. He's making reads. And we just didn't see that for the entire game other than those stretches. I mean, one of the more frustrating things all game was, and me and Payne were talking about this week, was just looking back on the film, Rodgers just going to his first read, seemingly with the notion that Myles Garrett getting the sack record on Rodgers was in his head and was in this Steelers team's head. I think it certainly was. I mean, there's no denying that. There was buzz going into the game, your division rivals. Myles Garrett's had a lot of success against the Steelers. And Dylan Cook I thought did tremendous in the game, but Aaron Rodgers was every throw was just his first read. It seemed like, and it showed up on film, and there were wide open players. There were opportunities over the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth over the middle was open really all game with the Browns' star rookie linebacker, Carson Schweichinger or whatever his name was. I apologize for the botching of your name. You're going to be the all rookie team or first team rookie, maybe defensive rookie of the year, but he's limping. He's hobbled all game, and they only at the end of the halves they think to throw over the middle of the field to Freiermuth, who was doing a really nice job when they threw it his way. It was just really, and obviously at the end throwing it to Marquez Valdes-Scantling 3 times in a row. He's not a receiver that you throw to 3 times in a row in any scenario, let alone on a lockdown corner. Denzel Ward. 9 targets. 9 targets, I think 3 catches. And the one he bobbled and he barely held on to earlier in the game. So it was just so puzzling. Obviously on that last play, if Aaron just gets to his second read, Gainwell's running wide open in the left hash, middle of the field, and it would have been a walk-in touchdown, or what it seemed like. And instead, the Steelers lose to the now 4-12 Cleveland Browns. That's their hang the banner win for the season. The Steelers continue their abysmal performance in Cleveland and their record in Cleveland. No quarterback other than Big Ben has won in Cleveland since Tommy Maddox in 2003, which is just an unacceptable stat and record for the Steelers. A franchise that's held in much, much higher regard than the Cleveland Browns. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts on the game. Obviously now the Steelers have a hot Baltimore Ravens team coming into Pittsburgh. You can't rest your starters this week. The playoffs is completely up in the air now. And really with that performance, all hopes of doing anything in the playoffs are kind of dashed because you realize that this is actually not a different Pittsburgh Steeler team. We thought maybe with Aaron Rodgers, doing his thing, this offense had another level they could kick into, but that's a typical Mike Tomlin performance that we thought this team was better than and could overcome. But what were you guys' thoughts on that game, and what do we think about this Ravens game coming up on Sunday night?
Oh boy, I mean, where do we begin? I mean, let's start with Mike Tomlin. You talk about interesting stats. The Steelers are now in the last 5 seasons 0-4-1. 0-4-1, the longest streak in NFL history of losing or not winning a game against teams that are 8 or more games under 500. That is stunning. And that, of course, that one tie, the 0-4-1, the one tie being against the Detroit Lions in 2020 or 2021.
Mason
Rudolph, and it was a bad weather game and whatever. And the Lions were like 0-8. So, Mike Tomlin is supposed to be a motivator. Clearly, again, there was a lack of motivation, or at least wrong motivation, and that the whole entire offensive game plan, and I want to say that it's Arthur Smith's fault. Everyone wants to blame Arthur Smith, but Aaron Rodgers deserves a lot of blame for this game. I was very disappointed, and Aaron's done a lot for this team this year, but that game was on him. You can't let the Myles Garrett sack record thing get in your head, as Nate said. And that's been the problem with Aaron in big moments. He lets certain things get into his head. We've seen it in Green Bay in the big games. It's like he throws an interception, and then it's like, well, I don't want to throw it to this guy anymore. Like, there's just sometimes things get in his head. I'm not saying that he's not tough. What he's gone through this year of a broken wrist. He's overcome a lot of adversity, but certain things mentally, it's like, what is going on here? As far as throwing the ball over the middle of the field, this is Arthur Smith's fault, right? You know you don't have DK Metcalf, and that's the big story. The Steelers didn't have any good receivers because DK Metcalf was out. They had nothing going on the perimeter, and so but their game plan was, Aaron and Arthur's was, we're going to throw the ball down the sideline. We're going to throw deep balls down the sideline to Scotty Miller and MVS, both of whom can't create separation that well and don't have great hands, especially MVS. I mean, that's what drained his career, was that he's just can't catch. He can't catch the football. And instead of saying, hey, we know we don't have DK Metcalf, we know the receivers are the weakness of our team, we're going to find ways to get our tight ends open across the middle of the field. Now, like Nate said, they did that in the first half and the second at the ends of both halves. But throughout the majority of the game, it was, we're going to have the tight ends block, they're going to have the tight ends chip and block for Dylan Cook. They're going to chip and block Myles Garrett and maybe have them run out into the flat instead of actually getting them involved in the offense. And then in that last drive, they say, oh, you know what? Maybe we need to actually not worry so much about Myles Garrett and let Pat Freiermuth run routes over the middle of the field. And I know Darnell Washington got hurt, but you still have Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. Pat Freiermuth, you're playing $12 million a year. He's basically been missing this entire season, and it's not really his fault. And then, of course, Jonnu Smith, you got in a trade. Was a Pro Bowler last year, and he hasn't done anything at all. So the lack of use of the tight ends and letting them run routes instead of worrying so much about Myles Garrett and them chipping Myles Garrett was a big deal in this game. And at the end, we saw Gainwell actually chipping Myles Garrett. He chipped Myles Garrett, then he went out into the flat, and he was wide open, but Aaron, on all three of those plays, first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, made up his mind. I'm going to throw deep balls or fade balls to MVS. And now that last play should have been pass interference, but they didn't deserve it with the entire game plan and how they played. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole Myles Garrett thing really gets under my skin. Like, why do we care about him getting a sack? Like, that just goes to show this organization is just not thinking about the right things. And as far as Mike Tomlin's concerned, we've seen this for how many years? Like, they get to a certain point in the season, like, oh my gosh, they're on a roll. This team is going somewhere. And then it just comes all crashing down back to earth. And, the debate in the city right now is, of course, we were going to root for the Steelers to win. But, like, if they lose on Sunday, like, is it the end of the world? Really? Like, do the chances of Mike Tomlin leaving or the Steelers and Mike Tomlin parting ways, does that increase with a loss to Baltimore? And from what I'm hearing nationally, local Baltimore radio, local Pittsburgh radio, even the odds themselves, the Steelers as an underdog in this spot, you would think, the wise guys would be all over the Steelers, but professionals' money and public money is coming in on Baltimore. So it feels like everyone's acting like this division is already won, because especially if the Steelers act like they have no idea what they're doing without DK Metcalf, they're not going to be able to score points in this game. Now, Baltimore's defense is much worse, so I expect the Steelers' offense to adjust, and they don't have to worry about any edge rushers this game. But it kind of feels like everyone's putting the Steelers, after what they saw last week, putting the Steelers out of contention. But we still got 4 quarters of football left to play, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But, it's kind of like, I was like so locked in on them. I was like, that Detroit win, that was so impressive, the way they controlled the line of scrimmage and everything on both sides of the ball. And then that happens, it's like, this team, they're not going anywhere. Like, it's what we already knew. We were fooled for a week, but it's what we already know. And if they do make it, it's like they're going to play the Houston Texans, most likely, in the first round. And that defense, if they're scared of Myles Garrett and that Browns defense, which, by the way, the Browns defense hadn't been good over the last month. And if they're scared of that, the Texans, that's the best defense in the NFL. That I don't see any chance of them winning that game at home. I don't. I like the Texans to potentially win the AFC. So just not a good predicament for the Steelers one way or the other here. Jake Bell, if you want to add on to anything I said, but what bothered you the most, Jake Bell?
I think it's tough because a decent amount did. I think the one that was obvious is, like you mentioned, about the whole Myles Garrett thing. It just seemed like the Steelers didn't act like this is a top 5 defense in the NFL. It's not like they were playing the Bengals with Trey Hendrickson playing at a top 5 edge rusher level, but the rest of the defense isn't good. They acted like they pretty much came in acting like Myles Garrett was going to be the only force. And of course he is the most important part of that Browns team in terms of their best chance to win. But I would imagine outside of Myles Garrett, the Browns defense is still a top half unit in the league at worst. So I just think that I just don't think they game planned very well. I mean, obviously your biggest focus has to be on Myles Garrett, but at the same time, that's all they acted like was on that defense, and it showed. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like, consistently, like, I don't know if you guys watch this account, but he does a really good job. It's called Film Watchers. He pointed out the 4th down and 1 where I think we all disagree where they shouldn't have thrown a go route to Scotty Miller in the end zone on 4th and 1.
He threw it 5 yards out of bounds.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the film, if Aaron Rodgers would have just looked at the middle of the field, like he went to his first read, looked at the left side of the field, didn't care about anything else, he just went with his first read. He would have just taken a look over the middle, he would have seen the inside linebacker blitz, allowing Adam Thielen one-on-one on a defensive back wide open on a slant route. He was completely wide open, and then you get that first down. It's just, I just don't understand, like, how do you come up with a play on 4th and 1 and your first read is a go route to Scotty Miller in the end zone? That makes no sense.
Because he wanted to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. That was his whole goal the entire game. Yeah,
it's just, you're right, and I don't know why you don't look to the middle of the field more. I mean, it's just, to me, like, that was going to be the soft spot, assuming that the Browns were going to have more blitz packages, assuming, Aaron Rodgers' lack of mobility. The line has been better, but still not great. And just the lack of receiver talent, I think you can get away with not drawing too much defensive back attention to these receivers, and you can blitz a little bit more. I just don't know why they didn't look more towards the middle of the field, assuming there were going to be more linebackers blitzing. And it showed with the Thielen play that he botched because he went with Scotty Miller, and the Kenneth Gainwell touchdown that was also botched in favor of MVS. It just didn't make sense to me. Like the whole game plan, and like going into this game, I was, like Nate mentioned, cautiously optimistic because the teams always do better whenever they're hot in the second half of the season. We see it with the 2019 Titans. What other examples can I make? Even like the Rams, whenever they won it all. Like, there's teams that
the 2005 the Buccaneers. Steelers.
That as well. The 2020 Buccaneers, like those. The Steelers were getting hot at the right time, and then this game sort of canceled any of that momentum. And now you're in a situation where you have to play your starters, and it's just, this isn't a situation that you want, and it's a shame because, like, since the 2020 collapse in that playoff game, the only Steelers playoff game I was truly excited for was the 2023 one, and we all knew they were going to lose, but I was like, you know what? Steelers kept it. They were hot at the end. They were playing good football. Maybe this is a close game. But the other games,
and
like
it was.
The Steelers, yeah, it was. That was the closest game that they've made since their last playoff win in the playoffs. But you look at last year, I had no faith. Steelers losing 4 straight, and then you're playing the Ravens, who succeed at your weak spot defensively. Like, forget about it. I knew that was a loss. Big Ben's last playoff game ever. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, yeah, that's a lot. Like, you go into these games and you assume a loss. And if the Steelers win, and say they win an 11th game, you're in a position to technically, like, to be in a more favorable position at home against a team that a wildcard team, and now it's not the case. And I know Steelers now definitely aren't beating the Texans. The Chargers already handed it to them, and I just don't know how well the pass rush is going to get, even with the Chargers' bad offensive line, and or you have to play the Bills. I don't think any of those are favorable matchups. It's just, even if you make the playoffs, I'm not optimistic anymore. It's just, you lose all that momentum. Even if you beat the Ravens, it's probably an ugly game. There's not much to look forward to. And then you have to play a game right after with a 40-some-year-old quarterback, not on as much of a rest as he could be. Yeah, it's just a bad situation. This was just a very crushing loss, and I just can't explain it. There's not much to explain other than it wasn't good. So
I do want to say that couple things. That 4th and 1 play, you talk about film watchers, Adam Thielen went in motion, or maybe it was the other guy who was in that bunch set there.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Thielen, well, it wasn't bunch, but they were like next to each other. I think that's just, I forget what that specifically is called, but they went in motion, the corner followed them, so you know it's man-to-man coverage, and you're running a pick route for Adam Thielen to get wide open. Aaron should have saw that. It just goes, just like, that's the thing. When you have two minds, it's like when you have two. You know how they say if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. When you have two different guys running two different offenses, you have no offense. And at times this year, Aaron Rodgers taking over the offense has been a good thing, but in this game, it was their death wish. Why? It's hard for me to believe that Arthur Smith sat and said, you know what? This Browns defense, what's been killing them has been running the ball. We know we don't want Myles Garrett to get the sack record. So let's run the ball down their throats. And the run game, when they did it, actually worked. Jalen Warren had 5 yards per carry. Kenneth Gainwell started going towards the end of the game. And it just felt like, to me, this is my interpretation, that Aaron Rodgers he wanted to throw the ball. And this was not the game to be checking out of runs at the line of scrimmage. I know there was a 3rd and 1 late in that game, and they should have been under center. I don't know why they weren't under center, but Aaron was trying to check to go in under center, and then they ended up having a false start, and then it's 3rd and 5, and then they end up punting. So, now, Arthur Smith, in terms of the run game, those pitches killed us. There was that one drive, we ran the ball 3 times, and all of them were pitches. Those pitches are horrible. The Steelers are better when they run with inside the tackles. And I don't understand why Arthur Smith can't get out of his own way when it comes to that. But overall, they should have just been, if you're so concerned about the sack record, then run the ball. And that's where I feel like Aaron Rodgers had to have been interfering there, because that Arthur Smith's identity is running the ball, and that was that game made the most sense to be running the ball, especially with how James Cook in Buffalo was destroying the Browns. I mean, the Titans' Tony Pollard ran for like 150 yards and beat them. I mean, you just run the ball. Like, that's what we won with in Detroit. I mean, they had Jalen had those 2 big rushing touchdowns. So if you don't have Metcalf, I just feel like when you have 2 minds running the offense, this is what was bound to happen. And yeah, you got to run the ball. And at the same, it's like, we like that Aaron has kind of take it over in terms of being more aggressive. I feel like Mike Tomlin being more aggressive on 4th down has happened this year a lot more because of Aaron. So then that way, but like, where's the head coach coming in and saying, I know he's not the play caller, but like, look, we need to run the ball, and specifically within the tackle. So there's blame to go all around, but Aaron deserves a lot of blame.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point about the running the ball. I was going to mention that too. On top of that, you didn't have DK Metcalf, and that's another story in this game. Obviously, Calvin Austin's out, but he really hasn't had the impact that I thought he would. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's been dealing with injuries every season. He just hasn't stepped up as that second receiver this season. But you don't have your 2 top receivers, like you mentioned, Peyton. Well, how do you stop a great pass rusher? You run the ball. You're running it. They ran for 6 yards a carry in that game. I mean, they were running really well, and that accounts for the pitches where they would get 2 yards, 3 yards max. So they were getting big runs when they ran it up the middle when they had the traditional runs. We saw Warren getting some openings. We saw Gainwell the one run late in the game to the outside. He picked up 20 yards or so. And it's just crazy. You had so much time in this game, and they just went away from the running game. And then when they did do the running game, it was a predictable running situation, and the Browns were all over it. It's just one of those things where the offensive coordinator we've seen like against Detroit, where Aaron and Arthur Smith, they're both doing different things. They're both calling different plays, and they want different things, but they're working in tandem, and it's successful. But here is like them butting heads a little bit, and where you don't know what to do. I just think you mentioned, Jake, that play on 4th and 1. That's the biggest head scratcher really of the game. But
Should have just kicked the
credit to
field goal at that point. If you're going to throw a deep
I would have
ball to
respected
Scotty
them
Miller.
more. I would have respected them more if they just ran up the middle.
It's a game. You don't need that many points to win. Shadur, that touchdown was so lucky. He did nothing. I mean, to lose to Shadur Sanders is embarrassing. I'm sorry. And I think Shadur has shown some good things this year. But with all the turmoil with him, that offense hasn't done much at all. It's so embarrassing.
I want to give the defense credit a little bit because, I mean, the first 2 drives, they get the 10 points, the scripted Shedeur Sanders plays by Kevin Stefanski. And after those first 2 drives, it was literally nothing happened. That was the most frustrating thing too, because they're literally doing nothing offensively. It's 3 and out after 3 and out, or it's a first down and then it's 3 and out, and you can't do anything either against a team that is 3-12, and it lost at home to Tennessee, 3 or 4 weeks prior, and had a calamity of errors defensively and on special teams and everything. And so for that kind of performance to happen in a game where you take care of business and everything's in front of you, you got positive momentum, you got the Ravens coming in for a game that doesn't matter at all for either team. And instead, it means everything, at least for Baltimore. Baltimore looks at it now. They got that big win last week. Derrick Henry running like crazy. And they're feeling good about themselves. The Steelers, by contrast, just laid a complete egg, and DK Metcalf could cost them. I'm not gonna say he's the main reason the Steelers are gonna miss the playoffs if they do.
He's not the excuse to lose that game.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
But he's one of the bigger.
And that's not excusing him. That's not excusing him and his actions. But I don't care if you had. I don't know. I don't care if you had not one receiver available. Like, now that's an exaggeration, but like, we know it came down to play calling and worrying about the sack record, and all the things we already talked about.
Well, I do want to mention, like, even with DK Metcalf out, like, I feel like you still have to make adjustments. You can't act like every single receiver plays at the same exact level all the time as DK Metcalf, and that's just what they did. I don't know how in the second half you don't realize, hey, the Browns are doing what we probably should have expected, but obviously we didn't at the time, but they're sending a lot more blitz packages because they're not afraid to leave our receivers one-on-one. No one's going to be afraid to leave Scotty Miller and an old Adam Thielen one-on-one. I don't know how you don't recognize that, and I don't know how you don't run more plays up the middle where you sort of can get away with maybe not the best route runners and getting open a little bit more. Instead, it's just constant verticals and fades in the end zone. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And I just don't know. Like, Scotty Miller and Adam Thielen, they were never these guys that just completely beat you one-on-one down the field. They're more guys that you feel more comfortable in the slot, running slants up the middle, stuff like that. And it just didn't matter. I just don't know how you don't make those adjustments. I mean, you have to expect the Browns aren't going to be worried about your wide receivers. And like Peyton mentioned, utilize the tight ends. Run, use the run game. Like, I know that's more of an old school offense, and we're tired of seeing the old school offenses. But at the same time, you have to adjust what the defense. Yeah, you have to adjust to what the defense is giving you, and they didn't. So,
MVS, I mean, I think throwing to MVS in the red zone when you were getting the ball at the end of the game, when you were having success with Pat Freiermuth and just automatically going to MVS was crazy enough as it was. When you had Pat Freiermuth, you were in a rhythm with Pat Freiermuth, design something with him. You had Kenneth Gainwell open on that last play. There were so many other options. But what was even crazier about that was it was against Denzel Ward, one of the best quarterbacks in the game. MVS is basically a practice squad receiver. He got 9 targets like he was our number 1 receiver. And that's on Aaron. That's Aaron's guy, right? That's why he was brought in. So that's on Aaron. And the fade balls, the deep balls at the beginning of the game to Scotty Miller, to Adam Thielen, the other couple to MVS early on in the game, they were, on a bunch of those, they were targeting Tyson Campbell, the corner for the Browns, their second or third corner. And I think part of the reason Aaron was like, I'm just going to go to that first read and test Tyson Campbell was because DK Metcalf destroyed Tyson Campbell in that first matchup against the Browns. They had multiple big catches with Calvin Austin too over Tyson Campbell, and maybe Roman Will. I don't know who else, but Tyson Campbell gave up a lot of yards in that first matchup. But again, you don't have Calvin Austin, you don't have DK Metcalf, so just illogical thinking there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Campbell, he played well in this game. I mean, he had the pass deflection on the back shoulder by Thielen on a big third down. He was coming up when the Steelers tried to run the one screen to Jonnu Smith, and he tackled him right at the line.
Oh, the screens.
Oh yeah. Well, the one the
drive we had it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were about to say.
I was just saying that one drive. You mentioned screens. That one drive we had something going. 1st and 10. Okay, I don't know. We were running the ball. I think we got a couple first downs, and then we 1st and 10 incomplete. 2nd and 10. I think it was a screen to Jonnu Smith. It was just like why that play call? Like,
yeah, it was a screen to Jonnu Smith and MVS. Like, it was just they wanted him to block, and there was no way. The timing was completely off. There's no way he could get over to the block Campbell, and it was a loss of 3. It's 3rd and 13. You know, there's no way the Steelers are doing anything.
You can't put yourself in that position against this defense.
Yeah,
you can't put yourself in 3rd and longs.
Like we were saying, like I want to clarify what I say about DK. I'm not saying he's the main reason or even close to the main reason. I'm just saying if they lose to Baltimore too in a game where you're gonna have to pass a little bit, you figure. But still, the Steelers were able to run the ball well against Baltimore in the first matchup. Like a lot of it will inevitably by outsiders and everything fall on him because it was such a dumb thing that he did in a now critical part of the season. We were hoping it wouldn't be because we were hoping they'd take care of Cleveland. If they ran 50 times, I would be completely fine with it. And you win the game 16-10 or 30, whatever. Like it was going to be an ugly game no matter what. And for them not to be prepared for that was inexcusable. And it falls on the head coach, but it really doesn't with the Steelers because it's going to be same old, same old. And there was the debate, this week in Pittsburgh. Would it be better, honestly, like we mentioned earlier, to lose this game because you're not doing nothing in the playoffs? That's been solidified. It's a broken record, and you go into the off season with a lot of pressure for really the first time. I mean, at the end of last season, really at the end of the season when Tomlin got an extension after the Buffalo loss. There was a little bit of noise and everything. Why'd you get an extension after that? But this is like the first off season where there may be real pressure on Tom, at least from an outsider perspective, and on Art Rooney to actually make a call and get out of your comfort zone. And that'll be interesting. Obviously, we got to see how this game plays out. I got to be honest. I feel a little bit good about the Steelers this weekend. I just think Tomlin's back is ultimately against the wall. He's an underdog coach here at home.
Right.
If my earbud falls out, I'm getting fired up here now. And the Ravens, I just have a feeling they won't do the same. They won't have the same success like they did against Green Bay, just running it every time. Now maybe Lamar Jackson, he might play in this game. Now he was a full participant in practice. I'd expect him to play. That could be a benefit for the Steelers.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
I think so.
participated
I
fully.
think Tyler Huntley. Now we know Lamar is an excellent player, but right now with Lamar's health, and I mean he's not running at full speed. Like the numbers show he's running like 3 miles an hour less than he normally is. I think Tyler Huntley is. They run a bet. He runs the offense better right now. I mean Tyler Huntley gets the ball in and out of his hands. He throws short, quick passes, and it sets up. And the running game sets that up. And with Derrick Henry, but the good news for the Steelers is they've been with Derek Harmon back in the mix. We saw it in Detroit. I mean, that was the most impressive thing about that Detroit win was stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, stopping David Montgomery. I mean, Gibbs had like 16 yards. I mean, it was really impressive, the defensive line. Not only against Detroit, but the last several weeks. So, if they can stop Derrick Henry, Lamar's going to make plays, but he hasn't been the same guy this year. He just hasn't been. So, if I'm the Steelers, I'm like, if Lamar beats us, Lamar beats us. Like, he's a 2-time MVP.
That usually is how they
don't let Derrick Henry beat us. Don't let Derrick Henry beat us. But this feels like deja vu back to the playoff game last year, where it's like everyone is saying the Ravens are going to roll the Steelers, and Derrick Henry's going to go off on them. And last year, that's exactly what happened. Now, it's a different circumstance. This Ravens team is overall not as good. There's Harbaugh, there's some sort of tension there in the locker room. There's a lot of drama. This team has blown games more than ever. I mean, until last week, they just hadn't looked. That was their best game of the year last week by far. You could say maybe the Bears win. They beat the Bears early in the season with Huntley. But again, both of their best games of the year were with Tyler Huntley. So I think it is better for the Steelers, honestly, to face Lamar. And that's not a disrespect to Lamar. And some people are saying should the Ravens trade Lamar? He's been hobbled all year. You don't trade Lamar. Now I think they're gonna have to restructure his contract, but you don't trade a 2-time MVP that's still in his prime. I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's a whole nother statement. But yeah, everyone is acting, like I said, everyone is acting like the Steelers have already lost this division. I was looking at his site. I saw Super Bowl odds. The Steelers are with the Panthers and the Bucs at plus 10,000 to win the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, because the Panthers and the Bucs are playing each other, so you would think the Ravens would be around that same odds because the Ravens and the Steelers are playing each other. But the Ravens are plus 2,200 to win the Super Bowl.
That's a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
They
probably are thinking Lamar Jackson being healthy could carry them
just assuming,
with the momentum. But
everyone's assuming. Yeah. Everyone's assuming the Ravens got this one. So I like that for the Steelers.
Well, not only that, they're assuming the Ravens can actually do something in the playoffs too a little bit, and they could be. So that's. I would have thought like the Ravens going into this game would have a higher odds than the Steelers. I thought it'd be like plus 8,000 or plus 7, like something like that.
Yeah.
But not that's crazy.
But yeah, I mean Lamar. Like if you are the Steelers, we saw how the first game played out. They let Lamar run. They didn't put a spy on him. They committed to stopping the run, other than Lamar, and they had success for the most part. And obviously, he's even more hobbled now than he was at that point because he missed last week, and he had the flu a couple weeks ago. He has the flu every December. It's kind of crazy, but I just think the Steelers, if they can, you're not going to stop Derrick Henry, but if you can contain him 3.5 yards a carry or something, and you do your best against Zay Flowers. Another thing is Huntley is much more accurate at this juncture. Lamar this season has been inaccurate. He's throwing interceptions. That's the other thing. He's been more turnover prone, and Huntley's taking care of the ball. I think if you are like Baltimore, or if you're the Steelers, you'd rather have Lamar Jackson starting this game at this juncture, which is crazy to say, but he just hasn't been himself this season. Doesn't have that burst where instead of, getting 8 yards or something on a scramble or with the potential for a big play, he gets at most 5 yards and he's sliding, and there's really no big play potential because he doesn't have that high end speed this season. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it'll be a classic Steelers-Ravens. I think it's going to be really close. And I think the winner of that game will lose in the playoffs, and it won't matter either way. They'll lose in the wild card game. So, again,
I don't see either of these
45
teams
minutes
beating
on
the
it.
Texans. Don't see it.
Nah.
Yeah, no, the Texans,
so listen
I mean,
to this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
No, I wasn't gonna say much. I was just gonna say the Texans. I mean, they, assuming Stroud is gonna keep getting better and better, that team is gonna be absolutely dangerous in the AFC, and I'm actually very excited to watch them. So.
Yeah. So listen to this. The Ravens, the one site I'm looking, anonymous site. The Ravens have higher odds to win the Super Bowl than the Bears, the Packers. Now the Bears and the Packers, they're like close to their it could flip, but right now they have higher odds than the Bears, the Packers, the Chargers, and then at plus 10,000 Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh. And I think the Steelers are still a better team than both Carolina and Tampa Bay.
That's
just
incredibly
wild.
disrespectful to the Chicago Bears. That is very disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Bears are showing this.
Now the Ravens did beat the Bears.
Really good teams. I mean, the Bears.
That was
beat
different.
Some
That was early in the
teams.
season.
Yeah.
I think it's a different Bears team. It's a different
Bears.
That's not even a joke. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The Bears. The only reason they lost to San Francisco, they ran out of time. They mismanaged the clock there at the end, and that was an incredible football game.
Let's talk about that game just a little bit. I want to go because there were some big games other than the Steelers Browns this past weekend. That was quite a game, and that was kind of how I thought. I think a lot of people thought the game would go. A lot of offense, not too much defense. Obviously, the 49ers dealing with a ton of injuries. And the Bears defense hasn't been special all season. They have one, maybe two really solid players on that defense. And with the 49ers offense cooking the past few weeks and the Bears being able to control the tempo, and Caleb's been, obviously his best season this season with Ben Johnson. They've been able to run the ball great. You thought it would be an offensive kind of slugfest, but to get up into the 40s and the high 30s, I mean, it was just a back and forth. And the Bears would have won that game. I mean, no doubt, if they didn't have a little bit of mismanagement of the clock there at the end. And for the 49ers and Saleh dialing up the constant pressure. I mean, Saleh, he's a great defensive coordinator. We know that. We know what he's done with this defense this season, the players they're missing and the players they have out there right now. He just said, we're going to dial up the pressure all game. Because if we drop back, we're not going to stop the Bears. It's just not going to happen no matter what. Let's just hope we get pressure and confuse Caleb a little bit. And they really didn't at all. They got a couple stops all game. But at the end there, they dial up the pressure, and the Bears are just unable to convert there. But if there was 20 seconds on the clock instead of the time running out, I think we all would say the Bears probably get into the end zone and win that game. And so the Bears are for real. Like we were talking about the Ravens game. Like that was early in the season, and the Bears, they didn't have that total confidence that they were one of the better teams like they do now. Like they go into Philly and they get a tough, dominant win, right? You go to San Francisco in a game where, Niners have been playing really well offensively and everything, and you hang with them, and arguably we're the better team in the matchup. Like the Bears are for real, and those odds are kind of crazy to me and very disrespectful, I think. I think the Bears are for real this season. I think next season they're going to be a legit Super Bowl contender because they're going to address the defense. They're going to address the D-line a little bit.
Yeah.
And the secondary. So what are you guys' thoughts on the Bears and the 49ers in this game and going forward? Do you think Niners play Seattle for the division for the 1 seed this weekend? What do we think where San Francisco's at and where the Bears are at?
I kind of want to shout out San Francisco because I feel like no one really has talked about them because it's constantly been Rams, Seahawks for that division. The 49ers, with all the injuries coming out of nowhere and just playing some very, very good football. Brock Purdy has been playing arguably the best football he's played in a while recently, and it's been really cool to see. And you just have to give them credit. I think that they would be such a fun team to do well and make the Super Bowl if they're able to. I know a lot of Steeler fans are like, well, we can't root for the 49ers because then they'll have the same amount of Super Bowls as the Steelers. I don't care about that. That's the Steelers' fault. I would love to see the 49ers make a run with the injuries that they have.
If you have that argument, you're a loser.
Yeah. You'll be surprised with how many people are like that. But, I think, like, 49ers, like, Texans, that would be awesome. Like, in the Super Bowl, that would be great. But, no, you have to give a shout out to the 49ers and obviously the Bears for, first-year head coach. It proved that he was as good as advertised, turning this entire franchise around, not just the trajectory of their team moving forward, but this entire franchise is going to be viewed a lot differently with Ben Johnson in a great way. And I'm very excited for them, too. I mean, this was literally I didn't watch the game, but like it was just really cool to see these teams battle it out because they've been very impressive. I mean, I don't want to, boast, but I did have the 49ers winning that division, so I will be rooting for them to beat the Seahawks. But yeah, no, I think that's overall these are two very fun teams that I'm sort of rooting for. So.
Well, I certainly won't be rooting for the 49ers. I'm a bit of a hater, but you have to give the 49ers credit. You have to give that coaching staff a ton of credit. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, this 49ers the Bears and the 49ers are very similar teams, and that Kyle Shanahan and Ben Johnson, both very similar play callers. Arguably the top two in the game. Up there with Sean McVay, Andy Reid, top 5 guys, right? They both their identity is running the football and getting the running backs involved. Of course, Caleb Williams, really, the passing game actually in that game was what was getting them going specifically. But both these defenses, they just, this is a year where there's some really, really good defenses. And the 49ers and the Bears are just going to have to outscore teams. And when they play, I don't know. Now, that's why I think the Seahawks have the upper hand. Now, if Sam Darnold plays poorly, then they're going to have a great chance to win the game. But I don't see, Robert Saleh has done a good job of letting the 49ers defense being good enough against the bad teams. You have to realize the 49ers, along with the Patriots, both of whom have a chance at the 1 seeds going into the final week, have had some of the weakest schedules in the league. And their defense has been good enough against a lot of bad competition. But we saw when you go up against a Ben Johnson, if they go up against a Sean McVay, if they go up against, I know the Eagles have been weird, but you go up against Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and all those weapons and Saquon, that offense has to be perfect. And they were on Sunday night, but again, it was against a bad Bears defense. So they're going to see better defenses, starting with Seattle on Saturday night. And I think Seattle, now they beat Seattle the first week, but the 49ers had their entire defense. They had all their guys. If the 49ers didn't have as many injuries on defense, I think they'd be the favorite in the favorite to win it all. I actually do, but that's just not the case. I don't see them overcoming that to win a Super Bowl, but or to get to the Super Bowl. But if they're the 1 seed, if they manage to, that's why this year has just been so unpredictable. If they manage to be the 1 seed, I mean, you just have to win 2 games. You have to find a way to win 2 games to get there. So to me, they still feel like a wild card team. But again, it's just been one of those years, so much parity. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. It's just been one of the more exciting years that I can remember. But you have to give Kyle and Ben and Robert Saleh for a lot of all those teams credit. And the difference between the Bears and the 49ers, of course, had so many defensive injuries. The Bears just don't have enough pieces. And they did have some injuries to their linebacker core, but they need that edge rusher. To me, the Bears would be a great fit to go out and get a Max Crosby. Because Montez Sweat is decent, but you pair him with Max Crosby, that's That's forming a defense there.
Well, look at the last time the Bears did something like that. They got Khalil Mack, completely transformed their defense. So I would love to see that for them,
right.
for sure.
Yeah, Payne, I was with you there all the way until you said, if they were fully healthy, I think they would be the favorite. I still don't think.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they'd be.
I'm not even a hater.
They'd feel like a.
But just the way they've been
they
playing, I
defense.
understand what you mean. Yeah, like the way they're playing with all those injuries, you'd expect a fully healthy team to be more favored in these sort of games, I guess. I think
with
that's
when you play the Seahawks defense, the Rams defense, although they've struggled lately, like I mean, we'll see this Saturday if they could just outscore any defense in the league. Because if they could outscore the Seahawks defense, if they can run all over the Seahawks defense, then they can outscore anybody. But I'm saying if they had Bosa and Warner and their guys on defense, they might have the 1 seed locked up already. Like the Rams having some really weird losses this year, like they could have this 1 seed. I mean, the Rams lost to the 49ers on that Thursday night game. That was a weird spot. But yeah, if they had their Bosa and Warner specifically, I feel like they'd be really for real.
Yeah, and I agree. If they beat Seattle, I'll just say it right now, I think Seattle's going to win that game. I just think they're a better overall team as long as Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over too much. But I just think currently the Niners, and again, I'm all props in the win, masterful job, Saul and Shannon and everything. And without Kittle, even too, which is a big thing, not having George Kittle, because they're a really bad team historically when Kittle doesn't play, and he didn't play it, and their offense really didn't skip a beat. So that's a credit to Brock Purdy. He got the big money, and there's a lot of questions. At the time, I think Peyton, me and you, and maybe Jake Bell were on the thing where that's a lot of money for a guy who could be replacement level in a Shanahan kind of offense. We saw with Mac Jones earlier what he was able to do. But I think Brock Purdy has elevated this offense this season, and that's the ultimate credit
over the last month. I feel like we're overreacting a little bit with Brock because Brock wasn't very good at the start of the year. Then he got hurt. Mac Jones, we have to realize Mac Jones got them in this position, and then Brock Purdy finally started to find his rhythm. I mean, that Carolina game they won. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions, and then after that, because that was his first or second game back, and after that he's gotten to that rhythm. But now this is the first real good defense he's going to be facing. So I don't want to give too much praise to Brock Purdy yet, but he adds. I mean, people are saying he's better than Mac Jones, but the difference between Brock Purdy and Mac Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo was Brock Purdy adds that athleticism and that playmaking ability. We saw that last week with that touchdown, and Chris Collinsworth was like, "Oh, it looks a little Mahomey there." That was more of a Tony Romo impression. But look at this. I'm watching Alabama, Indiana. Nick Saban, of course, is picking Alabama. Dez is picking Alabama. Alabama is. I don't mean to get off. Alabama is such a public darling. I love Indiana to win this by more than a touchdown. And I could sound like an idiot, but I know the teams are 0-6. 0-6 with a bye.
If Indiana wins, they'll make history in a way you wouldn't expect. If Indiana wins, they'll be the first team since the 12-team playoff has existed to win a game while being a first-round bye team.
0-6. The first-round bye teams are 0-6. Mm-hmm. So
how about that?
We'll get to that.
But I think the Niners, I think at full strength, they could compete for the Super Bowl. I think I'd have them, kind of close to where I have Seattle and the Rams and the Eagles.
Well, the Rams, though, the Rams have to be on their hands and knees for the Seahawks to win this game. Because if the 49ers win, the Rams are the 6th seed. And they're going to have to go on the road to either Philadelphia or Chicago. And what we've seen with this Rams, and this is why I think Matthew Stafford deserves to be the MVP. When Matthew Stafford is off, we saw in this Atlanta game, this is not the same football team. Now, I still think the Rams, when they're going right, are the best team in football. You have to remember that they're out. I think they're missing one of their, I think it's their left tackle they've been missing, at least for the last game. And of course, Devontae Adams they were missing. So when those guys come back, I think
Dawson was out.
That adds
Dawson's been out for them.
Right. But you miss out on the division. You miss out on the 1 seed. But if you could get the 5 seed and play Carolina or Tampa, probably going to be Carolina, then that's kind of like a first round bye. You just go in and take care of business.
Much better.
But now they lost to Carolina, but I don't think that would happen again. They've had some real weird losses. But if they're the 6th seed, like, it's crazy. Just it's one of those years where like 1 or 2 things can happen and it completely changes your season. I mean, blowing that lead to Seattle, was so unlikely, and it happened. It happened, and they have to respond to that. And they were asleep in that first half against Atlanta. So they and Sean McVay after that game was like, guys, we gotta play our starters. Like, we gotta end the season on a better note. So even if the 49ers do win and they're the 6th seed, Sean McVay wants them to go out, going into the playoffs feeling good about themselves and beating up on a very bad Arizona team. So.
Yeah, but I think we would agree. Like, at their best, I think the Rams are the best team. Like, when they're playing their best, I think the Rams are really, really tough to stop. I think for San Francisco, I just think, like, with the injuries they have, like, if they got to go on the road to Chicago, like, Chicago should have won that game anyway on Sunday. I think Philly, I don't see them beating Philly, honestly. If they play like they did against Buffalo in this season, where it's like one half they're playing well and the offense is humming, and then the other half they get negative yards almost. Like, then I think the Niners could win. But I just think, on the road, that's why this game is huge for San Francisco, because you could be looking so much positive momentum. You lose to Seattle, you got to go on the road to Philly or Chicago, and you lose, and your season's over already. Although I think a lot of people would say it's still a successful season for the Niners with all the injuries defensively. But anyway, the Rams, we're going to talk about the playoffs more like next week and the weeks to come here as we go here. But we had our picks this past week. We didn't make videos and everything because we weren't in person and everything. But Brian Cashman did pretty good this week. A little bit of a bounce back for Brian Cash. He's had some bad weeks recently.
He was at. Do you want me to give an update?
Yeah, you give the update where we're at, and then we'll wrap it up a little bit with a couple more things.
So Cashman, I overtook Jake Bell in 2nd place, but Cashman's been ahead the whole time in 1st. He, at one point, a couple weeks, he went back-to-back weeks going 1-4 in weeks 14 and 15. And he was down from plus 24 to plus 16. I was maybe like 4 back. And Jake Bell might have been like 5 back. But then the last 2 weeks, week 16, he went 4-1, got 4 points back. And then last week, he went 4-1, lost his lock. We all lost our locks. All of us locked the Steelers except for me. I actually picked Cleveland, got a couple extra points for that, because I just had a feeling a Tomlin special was coming. But I lost my lock with the Green Bay Packers. But Cashman did gain 2 points last week. So currently, the standings, he's at 22 points. I'm at 14. Jake Bell is at 9. And Pigeon Schivins is even. A lot of points behind. Now, you'd think Pigeon has just been awful. Now, he hasn't been very good.
Whoa.
But with the point systems, though, I'm defending Pigeon here, actually. With the point system, the points kind of don't show the entire story. That's what makes it fun. Like, so our actual records of picks. Cashman has a great record. He's 49 and 36, 57%. I'm at 46 and 40, 54%. And even though Jake Bell has 9 more points than Pigeon is 41 and 45, and Jake Bell is 40 and 46. So I'm at 46 and 40, I'm 54%. Jake Bell is 47%, and Pigeon is 48%. But Jake Bell has 9 more points. Now, you have to consider, though, with Jake Bell, he loves to just do an upset pick every week to get extra points, and it normally hasn't worked out for him. So that kind of contributes to his bad
record. A couple that was really good.
Earlier it was a lot more predictable because like the Patriots were an upset against the Bills in a divisional game, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a sucker's bet. I'm taking that all day. So
yeah, we got one more week left here. I've been even like
Brian
3 weeks in a row. Brian
Cashman is going to be regular season champion, and we'll continue it into the playoffs. I don't know how we're going to do it exactly. That's something we'll have to discuss. But
we'll have conversations internally.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a collective.
Heart to heart. As a collective. Oh, it was so funny. I was watching the Tomlin presser, and they asked him about not having DK Metcalf and how that impacted him. I can't remember if it was before the game or after or whatever, but I said, while the question was being asked, I was like, as a collective. And then he said, well, as a collective, we have to come together, and he said some random BS. But it was so funny. I was like predicting that he's just going to say as a collective. We love the Tomlinisms. No, we actually don't. We love them when they're winning.
You know what he
Super
said
Bowls.
after the Browns? I forgot to mention this. You know what he said after the Browns game? He said, I don't think we played that poorly. This is almost the exact quote. Look it up. I don't think we played that poorly. We just didn't make enough plays.
Well, he also said that he also said that the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror during that press conference. So.
Oh my.
Yeah.
God.
Well, I think from his perspective, he's saying like defensively that they played pretty well. Yeah, outside of the first, they played pretty well.
Like,
but I think
we missed the
I'm not
pick
defending
six.
him, but
Nick Herbig
we
missed the pick six. Dude, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. He
that
thinks well, if we get
shouldn't be what it has to come down to.
Yeah.
He always thinks well if we would get a turnover, he's always worried about the if we just win the if we get the turnovers. Like
yeah. And
you did nothing with it. It's on the offense. It's not on your
Yeah.
He always looks whenever we lose these games. I remember the Packers game? He was like blaming one of the games. He's like blaming the special teams. Like that had nothing to do with anything at all. Like they don't. The problem with this coaching staff, they fail to recognize the issues, and that's why it's the same thing every year. They don't recognize the actual issues that are happening. So, we've been bouncing around, but
yeah, but that's where we are picks wise. I'm destined almost for a last place finish, so there you go.
We'll see. I could collapse. I mean, I have collapsed, but
there may have to be a punishment for me for being in last place. I don't know. I'm putting this on myself now for no reason. Why am
I don't know why you're bringing this up.
No, I'm gonna get last. I'm just gonna have the worst week of all time.
I was talking to my buddies about fantasy football and our punishment, and I was thinking about that. I was like, I might have to. This has been so bad for me. I've just been a joke. I made some terrible picks, just awful picks.
The locks are what killed you, and the big upsets are what killed Jake Bell. You know.
But I've had some games where it's just like, why did I even? Yeah. But anyway, let's pivot from that to I want to talk really quickly about Pitt athletics, just real quick, and then we're gonna finish with the Pirates and where they may be at, where they're at this off season right now. But another doozy special as Tomlin had his little Tomlin special the day before. Narduzzi had a Narduzzi special. The Pitt football team was an absolutely embarrassing loss to East Carolina. I sat through that game thinking at many points Pitt was just going to get a touchdown here or there and just kind of take over and win semi-comfortably, and it never happened. And East Carolina got robbed, obviously, in the whistle. I didn't even hear the whistle when they replayed it.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a whistle, and it would have been a touchdown. East Carolina would have been up by 10. Instead, Pitt gets the turnover. Rasheem Biles, who entered the transfer portal this week and is likely to go to Ohio State, is what people are saying. But that's another topic here we can discuss. But he had an incredible performance against East Carolina. Returns it for a touchdown, the fumble. Instead, Pitt's up 14-10, but they give up a touchdown immediately after anyway. And it was just a variety of factors in this game. The O-line is just, this season has been marred by this offensive line. It's getting worse. I know they play better competition, Notre Dame, Miami, but it's getting worse and worse every week. And you're thinking, okay, East Carolina, with all their opt-outs, they're not going to push around this offensive line. It was as bad against East Carolina as it's been all season. It literally was. I mean, if you want, I mean, it was just incredibly embarrassing. Those linemen should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. I hope none of them return. No disrespect to you personally, but you're not a power 4 O lineman. You're not a group of 5 O linemen. These players, but that just ruined the game. It just set the tone. I'm using that phrase again, but it really did. And for this team to lose after, I mean, the defense was really for the most part spectacular in this game. And for your offense, I mean, Mason Heinschel, I didn't think he played great in this game. He made some decisions where you're like, what are you doing? But again, he's a true freshman, and he's running for his life on every play. And I'm just really tired of the O-line this season. It needs to get better. There have been some key transfers for Pitt. Kenny Johnson is entered the transfer portal, which is a big loss when you think about it. But then you think about in the biggest games, he was covered by East Carolina. I mean, that's not even a big game, but he was covered by East Carolina. I mean, defensively, he couldn't get open. He was completely covered against Miami, against Notre Dame in these biggest games. He was never took that step as a true wide receiver one. So I wish the best for him wherever he goes, but I don't think it's as big a loss as people might think. But Rasheem Biles is going to be a big loss, even if the linebacking core is, Cam Lindsey takes a step and Lovelace returns and is really good. Rasheem Biles, I've said it all year, was better than Lewis, and now the numbers, with that performance on Saturday, the numbers bear that out. And Lewis was hurt a little bit too, but his numbers took a step back from 2024. But Rasheem Biles is just all over the field. He's a true difference maker. He has that demeanor about him. And I was hoping he would come back next season, but there was always the real chance that he would get offered a big, huge bag by somebody. And Ohio State, I mean, it's going to be hard for any kid to turn that offer down, and to actually play for a championship, which he's not going to do, newsflash, with Pat Narduzzi. And we've seen that again, another bowl loss to a group of 5 team. They happen to be my favorite group of 5 teams that Pitt is losing to these last couple of years here. But what are your guys' thoughts on Pitt football and on Pitt basketball? Oh my goodness, the game against Miami, where you're in complete control and Miami throws a soft zone at you, and you look completely petrified. I mean, what are we doing? It was just so embarrassing. It was terrible basketball. That would have been such a huge win for this season. They weren't going to make the tournament regardless, but just to have a win and get some momentum, and for Capel to maybe be back next season and with this recruiting class. But that was just terrible coaching. And in every close game, Pitt loses in basketball because they don't have a coach that has any plays down the stretch to execute. They just got completely out-executed. It was a bad zone. Miami hasn't ran a zone all year. I could have passed it around and got out of that zone. I'm no good. And they just couldn't do it. They're absolutely flustered. They're turning the ball over, taking deep threes. It was just embarrassing. So what are you guys' thoughts on Narduzzi and Capel here and where we're at with these Pitt coaches? And I've gave Capel the benefit of the doubt for a while. And at some point, it's just like you're getting out executed by by mid-major coaches, and by this coach, this first-year coach who's 20-something years old. It feels like, and he's
Yeah, I
running
saw
around
that
the
guy. I was like, who the
sideline.
heck is this guy? For this new coach for Miami, he looks like he's 10 years old. That's very
Yeah, he's a
disrespectful,
young
but...
guy, and he's completely out executing a coach that on the broadcast. I love these broadcast guys for the Miami Pitt game, but they were saying Capel, if Pitt gave him the necessary resources, he can really do wonders with
He's
this program.
he's got all the resources.
You've got
Yeah.
Pitt is a
you've got
basketball
everything.
school.
Wow, but still, like, he's gotten all the resources and that Pitt could offer at this juncture, and he's got the recruits, and it hasn't materialized. So I really don't want to
Well,
hear that. That's a
The
crazy
problem,
argument.
Pitt is in a bad spot. Pitt basketball's in a bad spot because Capel just had his best recruiting class for next year, and the year after. These next 2 years, he's getting all these great guys now, and it's like you can't fire him because you want to get these players. So I feel like they have to give him another year or two just because of that. But I agree, Nate. I don't think he's a very good in-game coach. And this team, they don't have any shooters really, other than Malik Mine, or like they don't have a lot of great players. But you know, this Salupu guy is looking pretty good. I mean, he's going to be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you got to ask your coach to win you some games, and Capel's just not that guy. He has to follow the Calipari route, as Fernando Mendoza is getting assaulted here for a sack as they go 3 and out. But Capel has to go the Calipari route of, I have to become a great recruiter, and have my guys play hard and hope that talent can win, because he's just not he's not a good in-game coach. I mean, we've seen Pitt get leads in the first half multiple times over the years, like they did against Miami, and just lose. So
And it's just like
and
immediately.
Nate-
They just immediately.
Nate
give it
knows
up.
X's and O's of basketball more than me, and probably more than Jake Bell, and he's
definitely
pointed
more than
out
me.
some things to us, like, why are you the big man screen? They're always running switch man to man defense.
Well, they've been,
these
to
teams-
their credit, they haven't done that as much recently, and their offense is fluid
Okay,
better,
well,
obviously, but
improvement.
defensively. Yeah, but
That's
yeah,
been a big issue last year and this year.
Yeah, and this year, like I've been saying, I think you guys agree. Like, for me, it's going to be a more enjoyable season than last year, just because of the expectations for last year, and the just lack of IQ of that basketball team with veteran players. This year, like DeMarco Minor, I love this guy. I love
Mhm.
DeMarco
They're a good
Minor.
team. They're a fun watch. They're a fun watch
Mhm.
this year.
They're a more enjoyable watch, just like watching the team, than last year, and
Yeah.
and they might even
Because
be
you
better.
know
Honestly.
because the players aren't frustrating this time. It's the coaching. Like the players are, you feel like they fit more of a basketball team better than last year. Last year was just frustrating with Lowe and Leggett trying to be ball dominant all the time, and it just all this miscommunication. Jalen Lowe had to have led the NCAA in blocked 3-point shots. I've never seen someone get blocked beyond the arc as much as him. Like, it was just a whole thing.
Yeah, I like the frustration for me comes from coaching even more so this year. And that's where it's going to be directed all year, because you got these freshmen, and Salepa, I mean, you got to the team late already, and he's played basketball for 3 years. He's very raw as a player, and you see all the talent he has, and he's getting better and better every game. But it's just like, and Minor, I got to talk about Minor more, because he goes out, he gets knee to knee. And that's, if you ever have that, it is really, really painful. You're limping for a while. He's there on the bench. He misses 5 minutes, and he's back playing. He's limping. He's hobbled, and he's making plays for this team and big shots down the stretch to try to give him a chance. I can't say enough about DeMarco Minor. I just think he is a true point guard, and I mean, Pitt's not going to make the tournament. He deserves to be on a tournament team. as a senior, and all credit to him for choosing Pitt and everything. But and you look at this team overall, it's like they're a fun watch. They are. These freshmen are exciting and everything, but it's just. But even in this game, like they had chances. There's an Indrusitis who had a bad game, but he had two shots, wide open threes in one possession to get a rare offensive rebound, and it rims out both times. Then he makes a bad defensive play, and Miami ties the game. It would have been a 6-point game. Instead, it's tied. And I think that was a huge play in the game. And Capel kept him in for 5 more minutes after that. It's like, dude, he's not. You got to get him out. If he's not making shots, why is Indrusitis in the game? And Cummings missing all 3 free throws would have put you up by 5.
Oh,
Instead,
they missed.
instead
That's
it's
the
a
difference in the game. They were 50% from the free throw line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Point
that's
Park, their
coaching.
basketball team does a much better job with their free throws than Pitt. And that it's crazy, but it's 100% true.
And again, that's coaching. That's like how are like if you just work on free throws, this is not a good free throw shooting team, but they have guys that could improve, and Selefa's improved. But like you just work on free throws. If you work on free throws every practice, you take a bunch of them every practice, you're gonna be like the best teams in college basketball, the best coaches, their teams shoot the free throws great because they practice over and over. I just don't know, and it's the same coaching staff every year. They don't change it at all, which has been shocking. But back to Pitt football. What are you guys' thoughts going into the offseason here? Because some of the momentum, a lot of it's lost. Although I wouldn't put much stock into bowl game momentum. We saw last year Pitt loses to Toledo, and that had no effect on the next season in the off season. So, what are your thoughts? They're obviously losing Biles is huge. They don't losing Malachi Thomas. They don't have any proven tight ends or like tight ends with experience going into next season as of now. What are we looking for from this team in the portal? What are our thoughts right now on Pitt football under Pat Narduzzi?
Yeah, I'm not too. Like, I said so many times on this podcast that this Pitt team wins 8 games during the year. I can't see it as an improvement to last year, considering you lost to West Virginia and just everything that happened. Obviously, it wasn't a bad season. It could have been way worse. It could be 2023 all over again, disaster, just whatever. But at the same time, it's like you had everybody returning that was important. Every single person that you wanted to come back came back, and you only won one more game. And it's just like, and it was just the same problem. The offensive line, once again. You look at the 2018 Pitt team that won the Coastal, and then they got blown out to Clemson. They had some big offensive linemen. Then they could power through a running game. Quadriolis and Darren Hall ran down everybody's throats. They didn't have a single offensive lineman that could dominate the line of scrimmage. Not a single one. You saw whenever they played against these really good teams, Notre Dame, Miami, those guys look so much bigger. Pitt used to match up pretty well in the line of scrimmage against anyone, even if they weren't the better team, and a lot of the times they aren't. But I mean, you look at the 2016 team; those linemen compared to Clemson's, you like as from a physical standpoint, there wasn't a mismatch. Sure, Clemson were to be better, but I mean, you looked at that and you're like, okay, I mean, if they can match them physically, I mean, they have a chance at this game. It's just every game you just didn't see that, and rarely does a Narduzzi Pitt team at home get blown out. It doesn't matter who they play. Rarely do they get blown out, and they got blown out twice, and that's just not that's just inexcusable. And the defensive line, while I thought they played pretty well against the teams that they beat against the run, they just still weren't physical enough, and it just wasn't these big defensive linemen. I remember seeing like a few years ago, Habakkuk Baldonado and Kalijah Kancey just everywhere in the backfield, and you just didn't see that. And I know there were injuries, I agree, but you're starting an Eastern Michigan transfer. It's just not the same as I'm used to seeing, and I know the transfer portal has a lot to do with that, but it's just, I don't know. Like I think the only positives coming out this year is that you have a quarterback that you can feel pretty comfortable with if you build a team around them. You now have the money to build an offensive line with the guys that you're losing. Even with Biles, I think Biles is obviously a horrible loss, but at least they can use the money on the offensive line, and I feel like you feel comfortable with the linebackers returning, where they're not going to be dominant, but at least they can be, pretty good. And I think the offensive line right now is the most important thing, and I think that's a good thing. And I think you have a good running back too, but there's just not too much in the season where I'm like, yeah, I'm so excited. Like next year, I'm gonna be excited regardless, but I'm not like, it's just hard to find any sort of expectation with this team unless they stop grabbing these mediocre FCS offensive linemen and thinking they can start in the ACC. It's not working. These guys aren't big. You need big offensive linemen. You need big athletic offensive linemen, and I don't know. It's just frustrating because these aren't Pitt teams that I'm used to seeing. And I just hope that they can do better in the transfer portal. So I don't want to talk too much about the game, the bowl game, whatever. I don't care. Like I didn't watch it.
Well, Kate, going on your point about offensive and defensive
yourself.
linemen.
Sorry, Peyton. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Going on your point about offensive and defensive linemen, Pitt may have some more money freed up this year, but Pitt isn't a team that could go out and win in the transfer portal and make their team a lot better in the transfer portal. It starts with recruiting, and Cade Bell, they're a sideline to sideline offense and a passing offense more so than a physical offense, and they need to adapt. They need to find a balance. Look, we want to be creative and we want to have a good passing game. But we have to be able to recruit guys and recruit running backs where we can run downhill on guys and create a running game and maybe go under center once in a while. And I think Cade Bell is creative, but with this offense, it has lacked a physical attribute to the offense has lacked physicalness, period, on the offensive line and at the running back position. As much as we love Desmond Reed, he was more of a receiving back, and he constantly got hurt because he's 5'8". There wasn't enough physicality. And Miami and Notre Dame, you got blown out at home, but we know how great both of those teams are. But what makes
Miami,
those
they can
teams
win
great?
it all.
Right, they really could. And Notre Dame, if they were in this tournament, they'd be right in the conversation too. But we don't need to get into all that. Why are those teams as good as they are? Why is Miami beating Ohio State? Because they're better than them at the line of scrimmage. And that's where it starts. That's where it has to start. You're not going to go out and get 5-star transfer portal receivers and get all these perimeter weapons. It starts at the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's what Indiana's doing. That's what some of these smaller schools that are coming to that are schools that haven't been in the limelight in years are doing. And Pitt has to follow that formula to an extent. And as far as the bowl game goes, I mean, it's such a classic Narduzzi. I mean, I said on the podcast, East Carolina plus 10.5. And East Carolina had their backup quarterback. And it's just, I don't know what it is with Narduzzi, but against these group of 5 teams, we've seen this multiple instances now. Even the game they won against Eastern Michigan, it was like they didn't really play that well. Like, they don't get up for these group of 5 teams. And it's like, there's this arrogance like, oh, we're playing a group of 5 team. We're better than that. We don't have to take this seriously. Like, well, you're not. You're clearly not. And it's not like Pitt had a bunch of guys missing this year was the difference.
Right. Only 2. Only 2 major ones weren't playing.
That's on Narduzzi. I mean, that was such a Narduzzi spot where like, oh, they're not going to care because it's a group of 5 bowl, and they're playing a group of 5 team, and like, dude, you're not among the elite teams like in college football. Like, if you're not playing well, you can easily lose to an East Carolina team that had, outside of one game, had played pretty well this year. So, like, they have to look in the mirror and say, look, we need to find our identity. Pitt football is about being physical, and the best teams in the country, like Indiana, like Miami, are about the line of scrimmage, and that's where it has to start.
Absolutely, and a final point kind of on Pitt and these O linemen, like, they've been known under Narduzzi for having like you mentioned, Jake, not only like big, tough offensive linemen, but NFL linemen. You talk about Brian O'Neill, you talk about Matt Goncalves, you talk about even a Branson Taylor who was a
He
really
might be the
big
last
guy,
one. Branson Taylor might be the last
and
one in a while.
even somebody like Marcus Minor who transferred in from Maryland, like he did a really solid job. He wasn't the biggest guy, but just like solid line play, and that was just what was so uncharacteristic about Pitt football this season. So hopefully they get that addressed and can't be shopping in with at Eastern Michigan, at Charlotte, at Richmond here for O linemen. This got to be, like you mentioned, with that money that may be freed up, needs to address the O line big time.
And start
We just want to
recruiting.
close and recruiting and talk about running backs. I'm really excited about Damon Ferguson. He's one of the best running backs in the class. Actually, I think he was like 10th or 11th, and he's a smaller guy now. He's kind of like the mold, like we've seen with these Cade Bell running backs, but he has a lot of talent. And if you have a good O line in front of him and in front of Turner, you're going to be successful up the middle. We saw at times Turner up the middle against East Carolina was being successful. Again, East Carolina backups and everything, but we'll see where Pitt football goes here in the transfer portal this offseason. But just want to close real quick with the Pirates. Obviously, right now the attention of all Pirates fans is set squarely on Okamoto, the Japanese third baseman, can play first base, might be more comfortable there, who knows, who has a Sunday deadline, I believe. I believe it's Sunday, of signing with a major league team. And we've heard that the Pirates are all in. That's what the quote was. They're all in on Okamoto. And the reports were the Padres, Angels, and Pirates were the teams like most in on him. And that's kind of been the trio of teams. But we were talking about this before the podcast a little bit. It seems like the Angels have kind of taken their foot off the gas in terms of their pursuit of Okamoto, and in favor of maybe a trade for a third baseman or a lower costing option to kind of move around their financial payroll this season. But what do we think, guys, on Okamoto? We had a good conversation through text about where we think the Pirates should go third baseman wise. Do we think that Okamoto is the best fit right now for the Pirates? I think he is somebody who is a pretty safe bet to be a good hitter. I think his maybe some of these other third basemen, the other Japanese player the Pirates might have been interested in. What do we think of the Pirates and Okamoto? Is that the best route to go? Especially if that's maybe takes them out of the running for some other players because where the payroll's at and everything, how much you might be owed.
Honestly, like, what impresses me the most about Okamoto, and this is going to be important for the Pirates, especially in PNC Park, he has some underrated power in the opposite field. And that's something that is really important with today's game, where you're throwing the fastball a lot more, or not a lot more, but with a lot more velocity. And I think that's I think that'll work very well for the Pirates. I like that in Japan he doesn't strike out too much. Usually it's been under, like, his entire career it's been well under once a game. Like, well under, probably, I don't know, in between a half and 3/4. But I expect those strikeouts to go up more in the MLB, as they've been with maybe with a hitter that's been a little bit better than Okamoto in Japan and Seiya Suzuki, where you saw his strikeout numbers go up more. But I feel like if you get a similar guy to a Seiya Suzuki and Okamoto, that's an absolute win. Like, not even close. And I think that's what you have to hope for with the Pirates. And in the defense, I know a lot of people are like, well, defensively, I'm like, if he can maintain a defensive run saved better than -10, I don't really care. Assuming that that you have some options. But if they don't get Okamoto, we talked about this outside the podcast. If Alec Boehm is available, I would definitely go after him. I would expect, and I think we'd be all okay with this if we get Boehm. I would imagine it would take someone like Nick Gonzalez to sort of balance that out. to trade for an Alec Bohm, and obviously it would cost more for the Pirates. But I would assume the Phillies would want more MLB-ready guys or MLB guys as a whole than get prospects, which the Pirates would be able to give the Phillies if they wanted. But yeah, no, I think Okamoto would be a great fit for the Pirates. You have the best pitcher in baseball. I know a lot of people have been saying this, and I agree. You have to use Paul Skeens to recruit this guy because San Diego with the Padres, with their track record of recently winning, that's going to be tough to really beat if you're the Pirates, especially you're playing in warm weather all year. So I think that
the negotiations are happening in Los Angeles. So all these, pretty much all the other teams involved, are West Coast. I think the Cubs and the Red Sox, I heard, were kind of interested. I don't know. But you have to, if you're an East Coast team like the Pirates, you have to send somebody influential to, I highly doubt they actually set schemes, but they have to have a pitch that's like, hey, let's ignore the palm trees and focus on baseball.
Right. But,
yeah, I mean, look, there was a Korean a Japanese report that in a newspaper that came out that said that Okamoto was coming to the Pirates. So I don't know what. We don't know what Japanese sources are right or wrong.
I did read more into that. They more were saying how would Okamoto impact the Pirates more so than he already signed, if that makes sense.
Well, it sounded like Okamoto is set. It said, I'm pretty sure it said Okamoto is set to join the Pirates. Like
it did, yeah.
Like, that's the most likely landing.
But yeah. That's now, pretty much what they were saying. Yeah.
We have to look at the major. What's the word? The major impact, the monumental impact this has on the Pirates organization. Because let's talk about. If they do this, it's going to be, a 2-year deal? I don't know how much it's going to be.
4 years.
But
4 years, I'd imagine.
4 years, really?
That's what they're projecting. Right. A lot of people think.
Because the other third baseman... The other third baseman that went to the White Sox, he got, 3 years?
He got 2, but he wasn't at all being outbid for. Like, the White Sox are basically his only suitor. I'd imagine if the Pirates and Padres are going toe-to-toe, it would take 4 years, if I had to guess.
So... The Pirates, for the first time in 8 years, we got to talk about Ryan O'Hearn, signed a 2-year deal, a multi-year deal. The first time in 8 years. That is monumental for the Pirates. I mean, it's not even that big of a contract, but for the Pirates, this is a massive deal to add O'Hearn's going to help this team a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Now, he is another left-handed first baseman, but he could play the outfield. You can move Horwitz to second, potentially. You could move Lau into the DH role, or you can just make O'Hearn the DH. Right. So there's a lot of things they can do with that. You just needed to get bats. It doesn't matter. You can't be too picky about that. And so them making that deal is like a big deal. It's like, okay, like we actually did something of note when it comes to payroll. Now, they're at 96 million. Let's talk about payroll. They're at 96 million right now. If they sign Okamoto, they're going to go over the 100 million mark, which has never, I don't think that's ever been crossed with Bob Nutting. So
it was once, I believe, going into 2016 or 2015, but it was barely over 100 million, but it wasn't.
There was 1 year they were like around where they're at now, like 96 million, 98 million. Like they were maybe 100, but like no more. So they're going to go over the 100 million mark. Are they going to go into the season with a $100 million payroll? Like, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. Like, it would not shock me if they sign Okamoto, like, Keller's out the door. Now, you could get something good in return for Keller, but I think it's worth keeping him at this point. If you're going to, you already signed 2 guys, traded for an all-star bat. You don't trade Keller now, unless the return is overwhelming. Like, so... If they trade Keller, that would be a payroll thing to me. So I want to believe that the Pirates actually have somewhat good intentions this year, but I got to see how it plays out. And we don't know if Okamoto is going to go through. I mean, we have to realize, like, if they sign Okamoto, for them to have 2 multi-year free agent deals in one season after not doing it for 8 years, in the last several years, last 2 years, they should have been doing stuff like this. Not to me, that what's dangerous about all of this is like they're adding these guys now and thinking, oh, it's all gonna work out. Like you want to add guys over time. You don't want to add, oh, we added 4 guys this year. Now that doesn't mean it's all gonna gel and work out. Sometimes you miss on these bigger deals. So to be doing it in 1 year and not doing it the last couple of years is like, but we can't be beggars. Beggars can't be choosers if you're a Pirates fan. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up in terms of the payroll. And if they sign 2 multi-year free agents, I mean, that's mind-boggling. If you would have told me that going into this offseason, I would have said you were crazy. So, because there were no reports saying the Pirates are going to, there were no real reports saying the Pirates are really going to up their payroll. I heard early on that it's going to still be around $85 million. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but very interesting offseason.
Yeah, it really has.
You have hope.
There is some hope, which is not. There's not much of that in this city right now with these sports teams here. But yeah, either way, it's been an off season. I was saying that, going into the off season, I didn't want to talk about the Pirates. I didn't want to think about the Pirates. I didn't think they would do anything, and they've surprised me in a good way, and I hope they get Okamoto, but I also hope it doesn't hinder them at some of the other areas like bullpen or something. But you could get bullpen for cheap. You can get some solid guys too as well. But I think overall, I really hope they wouldn't have to trade a Mitch Keller or something to get this on the books. Like at one point, the Milwaukee's operating well over $100 million. Cincinnati's at 110, 115 million. It's not much to ask at all to be over 100 million and to not have to move payroll to get back down into the 90s. So that's my thoughts. But let's wrap it up here. Went a long time. Had a lot to get into here, but thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. Make sure to like our videos and subscribe to the channel. We very much appreciate it. Next week we may be virtual again. Who knows here? Everything's up in the air.
We'll talk about the CFP. We got to talk about the CFP, but there just wasn't a lot of time. We spent a lot of time on the Steelers,
and the games
rightfully so.
The games are ongoing as we're speaking, so it's kind of hard. But Indiana leads 3-0 as we speak right now over Alabama. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And we'll see what goes on, what developments there are with the CFP, and is the ACC going to win it all? That's one of the storylines I think that people are saying. So, but thank everybody. Real quick.
Steelers Ravens. Nate, you think the Steelers are going to win?
I think they might. I think I'll say they win. I have a feeling they do. I don't know. But I'm not the arbiter of correct picks in anything, let alone the Steelers.
Are they cooked?
I have the Ravens. Done? I have the Ravens just because I have a hard time seeing the Steelers sweep the Ravens this year. And the Ravens have the more momentum. They're seemingly playing for more.
They have to Tomlin in these it's tough to play in the division. We have to split against the Bengals and the Browns. I mean, yeah. I think if the Steelers commit to the run game and stop the run, I think they're gonna have a good chance. But you have to remember when they beat up on the Ravens defense in the first game, it was DK Metcalf. Oh wait, we don't have him this game. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how unless they get the tight ends involved, how they're gonna get a passing game. If they approach it like they did last week and try and throw it downfield to MVS and Scotty Miller. But they have to run the ball, and they have to stop the run. And that's one of Mike Tomlin's big things when he first became the head coach of the Steelers. And if it's his final game as the Steelers head coach, he better end on that strategy. So I don't know. It's hard to trust them. It's hard to trust them without Metcalf. How are they going to act lost like they did last week? They have to run the ball and not stop with the pitches. Stop with the pitches. We're done with the pitches.
Good way to end this week.
I say the Ravens win, but I think it's going to be a field goal. I think it's going to come.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a really
As it
low scoring
usually
game.
is.
Like, I think it's going to be like 17-14. Someone's going to win by a field goal, I think. So.
All right, well, we'll just have to wait and see here. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We are family, Pittsburgh Sports Podcast.